Hello everybody, Tartan Rooster here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to some Battlefield 6 beta content. Today I wanted to talk about 6 things that Battlefield needs to do to really achieve success with the new title. These are certainly 6 things that I think would make an absolutely massive difference, and your list might be different, so let me know of your suggestions in the comments below. That being said, I want to just talk in general terms about how I felt about the beta. I've alluded to this here and there in different bits of video throughout the beta and some of the videos that I released, but overall I had a good time. There's a few niggles here and there. The netcode needs to be updated. There's a little bit of issue with some weapon balancing and time to death more than time to kill, and map size, but all of that I think will be fairly addressed as it goes on. I thought it was one of the best betas I think I've played. If the game shipped the way it was today, I think I would absolutely purchase it and absolutely make it work for me. And have faith that the studios were going to update some of these things. There was nothing to me that screamed this game will fail, but there are 6 things I think that could really be nailed in and improved a little bit more. First of all, we want good post-launch content. I think this is vital. Battlefield is yet to have a successful live service for any of its titles. It's had success with DLC packs, with premium in Battlefield 3, 4 and 1, but the live service it's been doing since Battlefield 5 and in Battlefield 2042 hasn't been the best. We've got maybe 1 map a season. A season's about 2 or 3 months. It's not really enough content to keep players engaged. There has been a big push in the latter part of the life cycle for Battlefield 2042, which has meant that the game has gotten a lot of attention and a lot of maps and a lot of love towards the end. So I hope, if anything, that's a good indicator of what is to come in the future. So hopefully, post-launch content for me, what would mark success for that for me would be we get 2, maybe 3 maps a season, and these maps need to be curated and they need to be really different to what we've got. We need to go around the world. We need to see this as what I assume is a global conflict from what we've heard from the marketing. Obviously, no one's had hands-on with single player, so we don't actually know how the lore is really going to pan out other than the little bits and pieces that we do know. But let's assume this is going to be a worldwide conflict. If nothing else, I want different environments. I want deserts, I want snow, I want rocky mountains, I want urban environments. We've seen little bits of that map design and that sort of ambience in some of the maps that we got with Battlefield 6's beta. So hopefully we will get a nice variety, but it's not just about maps. Post-launch content should also include new weapons, perhaps new game modes. Historically, new game modes for Battlefield don't do very well. There's just people that stick fair enough to, Conquest, Rush and Breakthrough, but if we have some innovative modes in there, that would be great to see. Battlefield 2042 had a lot of these innovative modes. Some of them really worked, some of them devolved into team deathmatch, and some of them we don't really talk about. But some things that I thought worked well as unique game modes were things like Control, where you had to earn, if I remember rightly, you had to earn points to unlock vehicles, and if you were doing well, you got vehicles. There was another mode that was similar, but that was more individual performance. If you were getting ribbons and attacking flags and getting lots of points, then you were able to unlock vehicles, which again was a really, really unique mode, but something that I think brought a lot of intrigue from players, and actually a lot of people were playing it, and it was featured front and center on the main screen, which I think is what needs to happen with any new content that they bring up with live service. As I said, new weapons, unique gadgets is probably something we'd like to see as well, even if it's just iterations on what we've got. A good example of this would be, instead of a regular RPG, you could have an RPG with airburst grenades or something like that. You could have variations on med packs that maybe do a huge amount of health regen in a very small area in a very small time or something. Just sort of unique takes on gadgets that we're familiar with to keep the player base with a good understanding of what they are getting and how they can use it effectively. Stuff like that I think would be really interesting. Things like grapple hooks, whatever, something like that. Maybe not quite exactly the grapple hook we got in Battlefield 2042, maybe something more akin to what we had in Battlefield 2. The more manual thing would be kind of interesting to see, like the Battlefield 2 Special Forces DLC had some really interesting things. So we need regular updates, good content, nice tweaks here and there, new weapons, new gadgets, new maps, and we'll be off. And we need them regularly, okay? And we need them in a shorter space of time than what we've had in Battlefield 5 certainly, and in Battlefield 2042. The second thing that I think is vital, and it is something that I've brought up in a lot of videos, as a lot of people are making a lot of noise, song and dance about it, and that is a server browser. I think a server browser is essential I think they do keep deflecting and saying, oh, well, there's a server browser in Portal. That's not quite the same thing. Those server browsers that are in Portal are for more custom game modes. And they are saying, oh, we'll add official servers to that, but it's still not quite the same. You know, these Portal servers are typically run by an individual, and that individual might just decide, oh, I don't want to play any more servers, gone, because persistent servers aren't a thing. But not only do we need a server browser that has all the usual information that we'd expect from Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 1, even Battlefield 5 I think actually had a server browser. It was a bit hidden away, but you could still use it, and it is something I use to find games every day. But the thing with that is that it should have all that information, and it should be persistent servers that are constantly running. There should just be servers at DICE that are constantly going and going and going, and you can browse through those servers in an official server browser. Have Portal as a toggle, so what you could do is, instead of what they're saying, which is, oh, we'll add official servers into the Portal server browser, just have a central server browser, then have the option to toggle in Portal game modes as you want. I think that's going to be the solution that keeps everybody happy. It means that Portal visibility is still high. It means that the players that just want a server browser that just shows the active servers and that they're persistent is going to be pretty important. I think it's interesting that we're getting this queue matchmaking system that we had in 2042, where you can't really stay with the same group. I have always said, and in previous videos I've said this, that with servers being persistent, you can build communities. Even if you build a community for a night, you have the same players sort of almost riffing off of each other, playing against each other, working together, and you start to build friendships and even just camaraderie, even amongst, you know, you sit down, you play for 3 hours, you're in the same server with the same people, you know, naturally things are going to start to get pretty interesting. And I've always found that in Battlefield games with persistent servers, because of the way that team balancing works, you end up with this quite tight-knit, quite balanced group of players that are working together and sort of know each other. And I really think that persistent servers in combination with server browser are going to be quite important, and it will help Battlefield 6. It will help Battlefield 6 succeed. Now, do I think if they don't add one, the game will be dead and no one will play it? No, absolutely not. But I think it's vital for players to see that server browser that they've been asking for in some format. Maybe just an update on what they've got with the Portal ones, maybe a slight change in how they do it. But I think it's going to be really important for overall success of the title. On the back end of that is Portal support itself. Now, Portal has been attempted before in Battlefield 2042. The problem with Battlefield 2042 is that Portal modes relatively were hidden away in different menus. It was quite difficult to figure out where they were. When you look at them now, it is 100% bot farms and XP grinds, and that's about it, and hardcore modes, and that's it. There's nothing else. There's no iteration. There's none of what they implied can be created and could be created, which was, you know, different Battlefield eras versus each other. You don't really see that unless it's like a featured Portal mode, which again is still hidden away a little bit in the main menu. I think if you went with my idea of the server browser including Portal servers, you might get more players that click on it because it's a slightly different experience, that they click on it and they go, oh, actually this is great, I like this, and then favorite the mode, and then they come back when the host's got it up again. What we've seen so far of Portal is incredibly encouraging. We've seen the ability to not only create custom game modes, but also move geometry of maps, completely rebuilding what maps look like. Now, the extent of that is yet to be seen. For example, can we start remastering Battlefield 2 maps just by the community, just picking up assets and moving them around and creating that mapscape? We don't know if we're locked into certain parts of the map not being movable. We don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see people that are a lot more creative than me experiment with that. And hopefully, we're going to see some really unique creations that overall enhance the experience of playing Battlefield. Battlefield becomes that hub that they've always wanted it to be. They said they were going to start doing that with the next game. They're going to create some sort of hub so everybody comes to Battlefield and can play whatever they want within that Battlefield game window that you're playing. There's a lot of different options. So Portal support, and I don't just mean at launch, I mean throughout. We need updates to maybe certain assets that we can use, maybe open up new blank canvases. Halo does a really good job. If Battlefield 6's Portal mode is anything at all close to what we have in Halo with Forge, then we're going to be absolutely sailing, and there's going to be a massive success for the game for that. And I mean, you know, the 6 things that I'm mentioning here, they're important to me. It doesn't mean they're going to be important to you, but I think if they work on all 6 of these, this will enhance the game, it'll enhance the playability, it'll enhance player satisfaction and happiness, generally speaking. If you look at the community and what they're asking for, Portal is a nice surprise that it's come back. I think some of us were a bit sort of worried about it because we'd seen what happened with 2042, but they support it properly. It's going to be an absolutely incredible tool for players and content creators as well to create nice environments, great community. The fourth thing I'd like them to see add in, perhaps, or something to look at, is active balancing. Now, what I mean by that is perhaps more regular updates to balancing of weapons and vehicles. We saw some of the balance problems with Battlefield 6 in the beta. I'm not going to deny that it's there. There are some balance issues. Shotgun is something that they have mentioned they're going to be working on, but sometimes you were mag dumping and not really doing a lot of damage with the LMGs. Other times they were absolutely lethal, and that could be to do with server stuff. As well, some of the weapons were laser beams. Again, they've said they're working on it. What I want to see going forward is regular balance updates. You know, a lot of times balance patches for developers are mixed in with new content, new DLC, new post-launch content. It's all mixed together, and hey, we've revolutionized everything. I'd like to see subtle changes happen over time. I'd like to see, I'm not saying I want a weekly update, I'm not saying they need to do that, but just keep an eye on the player statistics, keep an eye on the weapons, keep an eye on what's powerful, what's not powerful. And I don't want them to nerf things, I want them to do the opposite. They should bring everything up, in my opinion. I think Battlefield had this problem with 2042 where when there's a problem, it gets nerfed into the ground and then that thing stops being usable entirely. It needs to be that everything's up to a nice high standard, so things that are weaker, bring them up a bit and let people play with different weapons. I think the reason that I think active balancing is so important is that this stops things like metas from it. It does feel right now you could make any weapon work, with the exception of maybe the DMRs that a little bit more challenging to deal with, but I think overall we're in a good place, and I want that good place to continue, and the way that they do that is by looking at player data regularly, weapon data regularly, and update and patch as needed. I think some people are perhaps worried of, you know, some developers might be worried about putting too many patches in. I definitely think that's a thing, but I think they just keep an eye on it and slowly tweak a thing here and there just to try and get the balance exactly how they want, and not just nerf anything that's good, because that's a bad look for the franchise. Number 5, I think, is going to be class and faction identity. There's a couple of elements here that I am slightly concerned about. Number 1 is, yes, they've taken steps to help identify class, but then they said we're going to have open weapons. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, you're not going to see someone's gun from far away, but you might see someone that is a certain class and expect them to have a certain weapon, and you can react appropriately. You know, if you're at a long corridor and you see a sniper, you know, in uniform with a rifle, you're probably going to want to throw a grenade and then duck into cover or something. You're not going to take that head on. Whereas if you know you've got more range than the enemy, you might push them, etc., etc. I think open weapons is something that I've mentioned enough times. I don't really want to talk about it too much, but I think it does play into the idea of class identity and faction identity. Now, faction identity, if you look at the start of a round, you see absolutely everybody on your team in the same color, and you see everybody in the other color, but there's a little bit of merging of color schemes here and there, it seems. And if you have a look at things like the skins that you're going to get for, I think, pre-ordering, or the special edition gives you a set of skins, and it's the identity of who that is gone. No idea who that is. Don't know if that's supposed to be PAX. I don't know if that's supposed to be NATO. I haven't got a clue. And you can listen to voice lines, and I assume eventually the countries that are on each side are going to become a bit more apparent as we go in. You know, the NATO side has Americans and British, PAX have French, and whatever else. Again, we don't know. Once the story of the game comes out, maybe people will start seeing that as an identity for the faction. They just have to be really, really careful with how they're framing the skins on each side. You know, they need to be separate enough, and they still look like an army, but they look like opposite armies to each other. You know, I think that's going to be a really challenging thing for DICE Battlefield Studios to get right. And if they do, that'll be great. It'll be really good to feel like, you know, you're part of an army. At the start of each round, when you're running forward, it actually does feel like you're part of a cohesive unit. But as soon as we start seeing cosmetics, depending on how far those cosmetics go, we'll see. I think what everyone really wanted from this, and I don't think we're going to get it, but what I wanted and what a lot of people that are in the community wanted was basically just Ghost Recon Wildlands style customization, where this is your uniform, but hey, you can change the clip that's on that bit of your helmet, or you can put a badge on that says you're from this country, or you can, you know, change the type of helmet, but you're still keeping the same color scheme. I think that is ultimately what I was hoping for, but we'll just see how skins are handled. We don't know. We've got little sneak peeks of some really, really good looking skins, but it's how they're going to look within each army and each faction, and I think that's incredibly important, as people have been complaining about 2042 having specialists, myself included, is that they don't look like they fight together other than they talk to each other in either English or Russian, and that's it. Hopefully we'll see clear class and faction identity going forward. That's what I'd love to see. And lastly, variety. Now, I've talked a little bit about this 6th point when I was talking about post-launch content, but I think variety is incredibly important and something they should lean into. Again, this backs up a few of the other points I've made. It goes against metas. It means that players can do whatever they want, and I just want a huge variety in weapons, the way they perform, the way they handle, more individual cases of recoil being different on different weapons, and you have to relearn those weapons. It's not just, hey, pick up this gun and then pick up this gun and you can immediately click with it. I want there to be a bit of a gap, and to me that builds skill gap, because it's not about how much time you've got in the game, it's about the weapons you're using and if they fit your playstyle. And if you've got plenty of variety with weapons, with explosives, with gadgets, then it's going to go really far. And I think variety is the spice of life with Battlefield. And I think if you go and look at something like Battlefield 4, a complete experience, go and have a look at it. Look how many gadgets there are. Look how many main weapons there are. Look at all the different ways you can play Battlefield. And the game in the beta did a really good job of rewarding players for doing everything. You seem to get points for absolutely everything, and that is great to see. It means that you can, if you want to repair vehicles, that's viable for a full game, get lots of points. If you want to heal people, revive them. If you want to be head first into a door, if you want to stun people, you know, anything you want to do, you should be able to get points in, and I think that is where variety comes in for me. The other side of that, of course, is maps, variety of maps. As we said, if we mix what we're expecting from Portal with my expectation and hope for each season, I think we are going to get a lot, and I mean a lot, of map variety. Give us different times of day, give us different weathers. That means that a map that, oh please no tornadoes though, but that means that a map that suddenly it's nighttime. Suddenly you've got to adjust and change your playstyle and add a bit of variety. Suddenly there's a bigger rainstorm, it impedes your visibility, it makes moving a little bit challenging to do it quietly because you're standing on rain, you're standing on wet floors. You're giving yourself away in different ways. You're maybe sliding too far, have it, ice. We've seen what happens in the cold on the mountains. You actually see your breath. So give us a nice bit of variety in all aspects of this game. And I actually think this might be the most crucial point of the 6th, is variety, because it's something that I look for, something I love to see. If I'm spending 2, 3, 4, 5, beyond 100 hours in a game, I want to be able to feel like I'm never playing the same map twice. And I think that is the absolute heart of Battlefield and what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be, exactly the same every time. Bit of variety. War isn't simple. War isn't straightforward. And a game that's supposed to be set in a grounded war should really reflect. Now, with that being said, those are my 6 points. Let me know if you've got anything you want to add in the comments below, or anything that you think that maybe I've gone wrong on. Let me know in the comments. I think discussion around video games is still my favorite thing to do. So, if we open up a bit of a discussion today, that would be really, really cool to see. Overall, I am looking forward to the full release of Battlefield 6 on October 10th. And from what I'm gleaming, a lot of the community are agreeing with me. A lot of my friends are looking forward to it as well. So it's really cool to see Battlefield in the forefront of people's minds as an actual viable release that's going to cater to quite a lot of people. As I said, if the game releases in the state it was in the beta, I'd be absolutely fine. Some patches here and there to remedy a few things, but I think overall we're on to a winner. If these 6 things are in it, then I think it'll be absolutely soaring in its success. But thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Give me a like if you've enjoyed yourself today. Subscribe if you want to see more from me. I'll see you guys in the next video.